the dividend check from Donald Trump that may be in the mail. You see, we talked about this a little bit last week, just briefly. And so many of you reached out and you're like, wait a second, is this new sound? And I heard that question over and over and over again throughout the weekend. So I was like, okay, we need to do a deep dive on this so that people really understand what's going on. Don't forget, he put in the tariffs, right? Effectively like 10% across the board. And so he's anticipating income that could be anywhere from, I think the estimates are somewhere between 300, shall we say, $300 billion and maybe trillions of dollars. We're not entirely sure, but they're looking for at least 300 billion here in that. So could you really have a dividend check? Maybe $1,000, $2,000, $3,000. This is what people are talking about. Well, I want to assure you that the sound we played last week on Friday, actually, it was new. He had just said this on Thursday or Friday of last week. And it's not the first time he's talked about it, which is why I think it's worth putting some thought into what's really going on here. I think he's actually pretty serious. This is something he'd very much like to do. Here he is sitting down with One American News Network, OAN, to give his view on not just what we need to do with all the money coming in from the tariffs in terms of paying down debt, but anything left over, he'd really like to do what he's calling a dividend check. Watch.
Your tariffs are going to be over $1 trillion a year, in my opinion. We're going to do something. We're looking at something where, number one, we're paying down debt because people have allowed the debt to go crazy. But, with growth, with the kind of growth we have now, the debt is very little, relatively speaking. You grow yourself out of that debt. It's not a question of paying it. You grow yourself out. And the numbers are so much bigger than they ever were. The numbers we have now are bigger than they ever were. So when you have $36 trillion in debt, a year ago or 2 years ago, and you have a lot less revenue coming in, then you have 37 or 38. It's not 38 yet, but it will be. And the numbers are so much bigger. All of a sudden, 38, you're under-levered, whereas for 36, you were highly levered. We're not highly levered anymore. Now, with that being said, we'll pay back debt, but we also might make a distribution to the people, almost like a dividend to the people of America.
How much are you thinking for that, sir?
Well, we're thinking maybe $1,000 to $2,000. Be great.
Wow. Okay. So by the way, the numbers I was just quoting were what it would cost to give $1,000 to $2,000 to each and every American. But in terms of what's estimated here, I mean, we've seen various estimates. The hope is that you could at least get $300 billion. I think they've collected around $215 billion so far in tariffs, but this thing could grow as we move forward. Of course, assuming that you are, in fact, getting all of the economic activity that you would anticipate, right? So you still have to have a vibrant economy because you need all those countries to be paying the tariffs. So assuming that holds, you might actually have enough money coming in where if you can pay down some of the debt, one of the things he referenced was, like we're a huge economy. So what's your debt to GDP ratio? Historically in the last 10, 15 years has not been very good. So you want to bring that down. And if you're able to bring that down, does that then turn into this so-called dividend check? This is the second time he's brought this up. I want to go back to a few months ago where he was outside the White House and someone asked him about this and he was like, ha ha, and I'm telling you, knowing him as I do, one, I guarantee it's something he wants to do. Can he do it? We're going to get into that in a little bit more depth, but I'll tell you, he's going to try. He's going to try. Second time it's come up. Listen.
Of a rebate to the American public in terms of all of that money. We're thinking about that, actually. We have so much money coming in. We're thinking about a little rebate, but the big thing we want to do is pay down debt. But we're thinking about a rebate. That's a very... You just made a lot of news. We're thinking about a rebate because we have so much money coming in from tariffs that a little rebate for people of a certain income level might be very nice.
So that's something you should pay attention to. Okay. Now, granted, yes, I agree. We got to pay down the debt, but he he really doesn't like taxes. He's a big believer in, okay, we're going to give back to the people. He's trying to get the Fed to kind of loosen things up so that we can get, mortgages flowing. He had a plan that he revealed on Truth Social today saying we need to build. I'm going to call it build, baby, build. Right? Forget drill, baby, drill. Well, that's important too. But it's build, baby, build. He wants to build and build and build more houses for Americans. He wants Fannie and Freddie to be hospitable to giving more Americans mortgages. He wants mortgage rates lower. And he's come up with the idea that maybe we could be giving out these so-called dividend checks. Well, what would that look like? Has it ever been done before? There's a lot of countries around the world that have these sovereign wealth funds. And in these sovereign wealth funds, like you see in the UAE, for example, I believe Norway has one. If you look at, for example, even Singapore, they all have these, right? And they make a lot of money off of these sovereign wealth funds. Don't forget, he's taken a stake in Intel as well. The U.S. government is taking a stake in Intel. So there's a lot of opportunities maybe to be bringing some money in. So then what do you do with that money? If you go around the globe, all of these sovereign wealth funds tend to reinvest it in social programs for the country. They don't actually give it out as like a direct handout or a direct check like you'd see on some of the Native American reservations, right? Like sometimes that happens like with the gambling thing. And, if you put up a casino and then everybody on the reservation gets a certain amount of money, or for example, in Alaska, where they actually get a cut of the oil reserves. So he's talking about giving everyday Americans a kind of dividend. In other words, if the U.S. economy is doing well, treat it like a stock, treat it like a company, and you're going to get something out of it. In terms of how realistic it is, I think it is. I mean, I was just crunching some numbers. I wouldn't have thought this normally, but let's split it down the middle. Okay, so he's talking about $1,000 to $2,000 per adult. You get about 180 million American adults here in this country. So it looks like it might run around 270 billion. The problem with it right now is that we're not bringing enough in, right? So if we only bring in $300 billion in tariff revenue this year, it wouldn't quite be enough to get you there. So I think his goal is to bring in much more revenue on the tariff front. And, $300 billion is sort of the lower end estimate. And I think that they can do better than that. And they probably will do better than that if you have a thriving global economy and people are buying all our stuff and we're taking 10% of it, then yeah, you could be in a situation where very likely you might have the luxurious position of being able to say, okay, we're going to give out $1,000 to $2,000 to each and every American. Will every American get it? I don't know. I mean, I would not be surprised if there's, of course, an income cutoff for this because he's trying desperately to help the middle class. So it may go directly to middle class Americans. Knowing him, he'd like it to go to everyone, of course, even the billionaires, right? Because his feeling would be what's fair is fair and nobody should be overpaying in taxes, et cetera. But he may come up against some realities. I find this really fascinating right now because don't forget what's going on in New York City with Mamdani. He's promising free this, free that, free housing, free grocery stores, free buses, you name it. And it's almost like this sort of universal basic income and free stuff is just taking over the left wing of the Democrat Party. And yet here you have Donald Trump. Think about this and how interesting this is. In the background, guys, from the GOP saying, hey, maybe we just make more money and we give some of it back. It's like a capitalist approach to what Mamdani and the communist socialists are trying to do. So once again, he's beating them at their own game. Fascinating really to think about. So again, he's spoken about it at least twice from what I can see. He may have sent some stuff out on Truth Social as well about it. Dividend checks, I'm not ruling them out. I think that they absolutely could happen. Whether they happen this year, again, like anything's possible. He would have to get congressional approval, of course, but Congress is on his side, and this might actually come to fruition. So